Today is January 29th, 2015. My name is Edna Sussman. I'm a reference librarian here at the Half Hollow Hills Community Library in Dix Hills, New York. We are interviewing Adele Gresser, wife of Herbert Gresser, a Korean War Army veteran, as part of our Veterans Testimonial Project and in collaboration with the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project. Thank you so much, Adele, for being willing to share your husband's military service history and for participating in our project.
No problem.
You want to say what you did before?
Say more?
Say what you did before.
I'm Adele Gresser. I live in Dix Hills, New York. I'm a member of the Half Hollow Hills Library, as well as my husband had been, and we love the library, and we felt I want to send his history on a DVD or whatever.
Great. Adele, where and when was Herbert born?
Herbert was born in 1930 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And who were his parents? What were their names and what did they do?
Samuel Gresser and her name, my mother-in-law, and Marion Bialo. That was the father and the mother. When they were married, Samuel went into the Coast Guard. Not the Coast Guard. It was in the First World War, and he was on a ship that would bring supplies over to England from America. Mm-hmm. He was a very good seaman, mm-hmm. And he and Marion got along very well, especially since he was out 6 months out of the year.
Oh, so he was professional.
Oh, he was professional.
Navy.
Yeah. It wasn't the Navy.
Oh, the Army had a port.
He was attached to. It was a volunteer thing from the United States to England to give them supplies because they were in the war and we had not come in yet.
I see.
So they would go back and forth. Mm-hmm. Then he would come home and stay for 3 months or so, remember his family, say hello, mm-hmm. and go back there.
Now, what about Herbert's siblings? What were their names and genders?
He had three. Philip. No, there were three in all. Mm-hmm. Philip was the oldest, Philip Gresser. Then his sister, who is God, I can't remember. Strange, Levine. I don't believe this. I don't remember.
That's okay.
Levine, but I don't have it down here, so.
That's
Maxine okay. Levine.
Okay.
And Herb was the baby.
Okay. Do you know if they served in the military at all, his brother or sister?
His sister didn't, but his father did after the First World War. Then he went into the Second World War, where he was a member of, it wasn't the Coast Guard, it was some other facility that it'll be in the book, mm-hmm. that did the same thing as he did in World War I mm-hmm. and World War II.
And the brother was in the military?
The brother was 18 when the father induced him to join his place mm-hmm. in the Navy. It was part of the Navy. And his brother was taken under his apprenticeship, mm-hmm. and he was taught how to take care of the motor, the engine of the ship.
So the father taught him?
Yes.
I see.
He was he had a title. I should have read the book.
That's okay. That's okay. Now, what was Herbert doing before the service?
Before he was in college.
Oh.
He was at the Queen's College. He was going for his regular master's. He never did make it because he had a car accident. and it was his fault. He was driving without a license, and the judge said, "You have a choice of either going to jail or going into the service." So I guess he picked the service.
Wow. He was going for his master's or bachelor's?
It was going for his bachelor's.
Bachelor's, and he didn't finish it then?
Oh, he did finish it. When the war ended, he finished it. This is
Before.
He was at the, yeah.
What was he studying? Do you know?
Physics.
Okay. And which branch of the military did he serve?
The Army.
The Army. Was he? So he wasn't. He was kind of drafted, or he enlisted.
Well, it was an involuntary enlistment.
Right.
But it was the best thing that happened to him, because because of his ability. He's a terrific physicist, and he was going for physics, and he went into the service in Baltimore, Maryland. And served.
Did he live there in Baltimore at the time?
No,
his family lived
here. He lived
here.
in Flushing, Flushing, New York. He went into this group of geniuses, and they took him in, and they taught him everything that he had missed in college, and he met a lot of good people and became very popular with it. He never went overseas, and he would come home every other week, and I would see him, and every other week I would see somebody else. I wasn't quite sure who I wanted.
Wait, so he left college after 2 years to
no,
join?
He had about 3 years, 3 years of college. The final year, he had to wait, and when he came out of the service, he finished the college.
So you had met, the two of you had met during college? While he was in college?
I wasn't in college at that time.
Oh, but you met while he was in college?
Yes.
Okay. So you knew him when he joined the military and while he was serving?
Yes.
Why did he choose that branch of the military, the Army, you said?
We had a sailboat. He bought, but he was definitely afraid of the water. And he would get sick every time we got on the sailboat. So I guess the Army was the best bet for him.
Okay. Now, what happened when he departed for training camp and during his early days of training? I mean, you said he was in Baltimore. He was stationed
but he went to
for training?
New Jersey.
For the training?
For training. He did very well. He got hurt while on training. They fell off the truck, and he hurt his leg. But otherwise, he was fine.
What do you remember about what year that was when he started?
It had to be 1953.
Okay. So that was during Korean War time?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you know if he had any impressions about his instructors during the basic training, what they were like?
He really didn't talk about that much. I know it was tough, and he was heavy when he went there. He lost a lot of weight while he was there.
During the basic training?
Yes. And they would make fun of him because he was sort of clumsy, because he's also very tall. So they put him on KP when he was not behaving, and he loved doing the pots because they could do anything they want. He had the pots, and he could eat as much as he wants.
That's funny. But the training helped him lose weight.
Yes.
That's good. Did he receive any specialized training? And if so, what was it? You mentioned about the physics angle.
They knew that when he was being trained that he was not going to go overseas and fight.
Why was that?
Because of his physics ability. His engineering and physics. He was, I hate to boast, but he was a genius. He really was.
Wow.
And when he went into the service, he worked with some brilliant people. He met a lot of brilliant people. And he was one of the people that started the laser the initial group that made the laser.
Wow.
So in the service in Baltimore, he worked with these people. It was like a job. He didn't have to sign in or sign out. He had his hours, and the rest of the time he could do what he wants.
So pretty much he was in Baltimore most of the time of his service.
Yes.
And he probably couldn't talk about what he did. But
He told me he was not. It was classified, but he did say he was working on sonar. He was working on an atomic bomb, but he was not what the innovators that came before him.
Wow. Do you know how was it for him to adapt to military life? I mean, he went in and out of his office, but where did he live
He lived on base.
Yeah. And so including the food and the barracks, the social life, how was it for him? How did he adapt to that?
The social life obviously wasn't that great. He would go in and have crabs and German food. He would go to look at all the exhibits in the art museums, and then he'd come home every other weekend, and we'd spend the weekend together.
Were you already engaged then, or?
We got, I don't remember. Yes, he had to be in the service when I was engaged. We didn't get married until he got out.
Right. What was the living conditions like for him? Did he?
He took me there once.
Oh.
It was a big barrack. It had the cots.
In Baltimore somewhere?
In Baltimore.
Is that near
I never saw the training where he had training. But in Baltimore. And the food looked, he didn't lose any weight, so I think the food was okay. And entertainment, he was also a musician.
Right.
And he would play in the band there.
Oh, nice.
And there was a lot of conflict there because he chose to play with an all-black band.
How come?
They were playing jazz, real jazz, and he didn't want to play jump music, elevator music, he told me. So he went with the black people and the black members of the band, and he played with them, and they had the shows. And when the person in charge heard that he did not go with the regular band, they gave him a lot of flack.
But they didn't force him to move?
They didn't force him to leave.
How were his black musician friends? They were accepting of him?
Oh, yeah, no problem. They were very happy that a white person would come by and offer his assistance.
What did he play in the band? Which instrument?
At that time, he played the bass violin. Then eventually he went to the tuba.
In the jazz band?
No.
Oh.
That would be bass in the jazz.
So where did he play the tuba, in the white band?
And well, when he came out, and he was in a band after the service. He joined the band that went all over Long Island, and he was doing the tuba there because they didn't need a bass at that time.
Was that a military band?
No.
Oh.
Regular band. It's like the North Shore. Same thing.
Northport Community Band. Now, he served most of his time in Baltimore, you said. Was that the whole time he was in Baltimore? Not abroad, ever?
Never.
Do you know what his day-to-day duties were?
Well, he'd get up in the morning and have his breakfast and take care of the pots. And then he'd go to the office, and there were three men plus himself that would sit down and throw out ideas for munitions or for what they're doing, a sonar, how to improve it, because it just started at that time, the sonar. And then they were talking about the laser. They didn't have a name for it, but eventually when he got out of the service, he went to TRG, which is Technical Research Group, and that's where he worked on the laser.
That's part of the military?
It was out of the military.
That's a company?
Yes.
Okay. How long was he with them?
I think 8 or 9 years. TRG. Then they went to Control Data. They sold out to Control Data. And Control Data, again, continued working with the laser and the government. And they had a lot of government contracts. He'd do a lot of traveling then. He'd go on planes, work out things with the planes.
The military planes or regular?
I'm not sure. No, they must be military because they had nothing inside. He said that all it had in the back was an empty thing with a seat.
So it was like a military transport.
Yeah, a transport,
Yeah.
yeah. He would get deathly sick on that, too.
Why, really?
Yeah, well, he doesn't like movements.
Like the boat?
Yes.
Got it. What kind of friendships and camaraderie did he form while serving, and with whom, do you know?
He formed a lot of physicists who were in the Army with him. And when they got out, we always used to meet. We'd go together and have lunch or dinner or have barbecues. We were very friendly. And one by one, except for him, they all died. So it had to be something they worked on.
Oh, you think?
But Herbert always wore a monitor. And I'm sure they had to, but I don't know if they did.
For what?
Radiation.
Oh, wow. At that time, they probably didn't know how much
They
is bad.
They didn't know.
How did he stay in touch with you and his family and friends at home?
Well, he called me and he wrote to me. I came home every other week.
Nice.
So-
How did he get home by?
He had a car.
Oh, he had a car.
I can't tell you what kind of car it was.
That's okay.
It crawled back to Long Island.
That must have taken quite a while. They didn't go that
It took
fast.
him I think it took him 6 hours at that time.
Yeah. So for recreation, when he was off duty, what did he do in Baltimore?
Mostly, he would go look at the art museums. He'd go to eat crabs. That's what Baltimore's famous for. He would play in the bands.
Nice.
And he would play in like a three-piece band in a restaurant.
Nice. Where, and so he was in the service from 53 until
To 50,
60?
53 to 50, it's in there. I mean, I don't know if I wrote it down. He got out in, before 56 ended. I don't
we-
see it. We got married in 58, so. No, we got married in 57.
But we don't have the dates here.
No, I didn't put the dates down. I guess I was going to look it up, but I didn't.
Okay, we can check later. So was he in it during the Korean War end till the end?
To the end.
To the end. So he was in Baltimore when the war ended, and then, as soon as the war ended?
Then he left.
He left Baltimore?
He got his, he was allowed to leave the service honorably, and he went to TRG.
Oh, I see.
And
Where was that, in New York?
that was in New York, yes, on 14th Street. And then he did a lot of ingenious work there. He is the inventor, and he has a patent on cauterizing the detached retina with the laser.
Wow.
The Duke of Wales had used it, and Bob Hope had used it. And then he got $1 for it. Because he's working on their time and he's getting paid. So, but they have to give him something. So they gave him $1, but they gave him stock, which was good. And then from there, he also did. I have a handicapped son, physically handicapped. He had cancer as an infant, and when they went in to open his spine to get cancer, they must have cut the spinal column. So he was paralyzed from, I guess, the waist down.
As an infant?
As an infant. Although he could move his legs involuntarily, it wasn't voluntary. And he designed something called an Irish mail wagon. That's what he called it.
Your husband?
My husband, yeah. It looked like a little bike low down, and it had, because my son couldn't use his legs for the key, for the pressure, so
The
he would
pedals?
use his arms. He couldn't pedal. So he'd use his arms, pulling the thing forward and back. Forward would make it move forward, back, holding it over there would stop it. So because of that, he was able to get around the neighborhood and made some friends. He didn't have many friends because he couldn't get out.
He went to school?
Yeah. He went to the Cerebral Palsy Association for kindergarten, and they told him they wanted him. He's very handsome, and he was very. He spoke three-word sentences at 1 year. It tells you how smart he was. They wanted him in all their plays because he was the chief of the actors, and they wanted to keep him there in the first grade. And I said, I really don't want it. So I mean, it's very nice that you feel that way. But I went to the Plainview where we live. We moved. I said, I told them about my son. I brought doctor's notes saying that he has no mental problems, and as far only for the legs. So he has a wheelchair, or he has to wear crutches, use crutches and braces. And they said they would take him on a 3-month trial. He
At the public school?
In the public school, Plainview. He almost skipped second grade. Actually, they were going to skip him, but they felt he was so young that he would never have friends in third grade. So he stayed there.
Socially, because
socially. So he, after Control Data bought TRG, he went into business for himself with one of the partners, one of the people he met in the industry. And they were working out of my basement, and they did something with diamonds, and that's where he made money. All the inventions he had, he got nothing, but he felt good. Oh, I started to say that he used the laser to cut out cancerous or bad parts of a person. And when he wanted them, the TRG at that time, to get a patent for him, they said no, they wouldn't.
Why?
They didn't believe it would work. And it's been in existence for years.
Wow.
Well, anyway, with the diamonds, he went into business with his friend, with one of the people he knows, Joe, and they were working at the basement. They had gotten patents on diamond engraving, taking decay out of diamonds and the filler, so that it looked like a perfect diamond. And they had to contact whoever bought it, telling them that it had been engineered. It had been not engineered, but altered.
Oh.
So they knew, and the dealers were supposed to send a notification to anybody who was going to buy it. And the diamond industry, gemological industry, has his name as one of the important people who donated things.
Wow.
So
So
we made money then.
When he did the diamond work, he had finished with TRG and Control Data.
Yes,
That
was the end. He worked on. He retired finally on his own.
Going back to when he finished with his service, how was he received by the family and the community?
Oh, they loved him.
Yeah. And how did he readjust to? I mean, he's basically going back
I
to.
don't think he had any problem.
It was.
He never went overseas.
Right.
He never had any fighting. Although he had a medal for shooting, which he had to learn. In
training.
In the training.
But he lived in military barracks, so it was a little different when he went back home.
It was
But
nothing.
he was fine.
No problem.
Was he a member of any veterans organizations?
Yes.
Which ones?
There were two. I can't think of the one of them is, this other one is the Jewish War veterans, the United States veterans. I don't know what the other one is.
VFW?
Yes, the Veterans of Foreign Wars.
You said he did remain in contact with some of his fellow...
Yes, but all of them had passed away. Joe, who was his partner, went in his direction, and Herb kept it in his direction. He would go all over Europe, Belgium, Holland, England, India.
During the diamond business?
With the diamonds. And he would build the machines for them, and then he'd have to go and train them. And then if there's a problem, either he had to train somebody there, or if it were Europe, he went. But it was India or Israel. No, Israel he went to. It was India or Japan. He didn't go.
Did you go with him sometimes?
No. But we made up for it.
With travel?
We went all over, practically all over the world.
Wonderful. How do you think his experience in the military affected his life?
I think he was very proud of it. I think he enjoyed it. He enjoyed playing. He enjoyed learning from his masters with the science, the physics. I think it made him a better man.
Really? He knew from the beginning they weren't going to send him abroad, right?
No, he didn't know.
Oh.
But when you go into this specialty group, it's to help the United States with armaments,
right.
Obviously.
What do you think were some life lessons he may have learned from his military service?
Cleanliness. It was very clean. He always made his bed. He even learned how to cook.
Great.
In fact, when I was a teacher and I would come home sometimes in the winter, 5 or 6 o'clock at night, and he would say, "What's for dinner?" And I'd say, "What did you make?" And he says, "What do you mean, what did I make?" I said, "Well, at least you could make a salad." Eventually, it went from a salad to the whole dinner.
Nice.
And I did all the cleanup. He loved it. He loved doing any creative things.
Did he learn some of the cooking from being in the service, you
Yes,
think? Oh.
yes. And some, I guess, from his mother. And some because from all the foreign countries that we had visited, he would pick us up and bring it home. And I didn't like to cook, so it was fine.
Do you think there's anything he might have done while he was in the military that he regretted?
I really don't think so. I think he enjoyed that tremendously. It was a growing up period, and when he got out of the service, he finally finished his education. He's got his bachelor's, and then he went on for his master's.
Oh,
And
so at Queens again? Or?
No,
Oh.
he got his
Bachelor's?
He finished at Queens, but he started at Brooklyn Poly, and there was another Poly out here, and he took a few courses there, and then finished it up in Queens.
His master's was in
Yeah.
physics or in physics?
Physics.
You said he was injured that one time during training.
Yeah, he hurt his leg when he fell off the truck.
Was it broken? Did they have to do
No,
anything?
he tore some ligaments, so he was in the cast for a while.
But he didn't have to come home. He could remain.
No, he was there. He stayed there.
If he were here today, what message do you think he'd like to leave for future generations who might see this interview?
So, would you say that again?
Yeah. If he were here today, what do you think his message would be for future generations who might see or hear this interview?
That going into the service not only helps your country, but it helps you. It helps you grow as a person. It helps you learn about people you would never have met. It inspires education. And if that's the only thing that he got out of it, he did well.
Do you think how do you think his military service impacted his feelings about war and the military in general?
When he worked with Control Data and TRG, they were working with the government on ammunitions and armaments. He would not do work on those projects. There were other projects.
Out of his principles, or?
That's right. His principles were not to go to war.
That was after his service.
After his service.
So they were okay with him wanting other projects.
They have other projects, and his project was medical. He loved that. He wanted to get that, my son, he wanted to do something for my son. If they had the laser at that time, they would have cut the tumor away without injuring the spinal column.
Right.
But since they didn't, my son to this day, he's a doctor.
Wow.
And he had to go through all the training of a regular doctor, even though he has braces and he walks with Canadian crutches.
Wow.
And now he's 53. He sits in a wheelchair most of the time. It's just too much for him to walk around. But wherever he goes, he can sit in the wheelchair. But if he comes to me or he goes to the hospital, he has to walk in. And then he gets his wheelchair because there's no access there. I need a tissue. I got it.
Is your son, has he have family? Is he married?
Oh, yes. He has two. We never thought he'd have children because they had given him a lot of radiation and chemo. And he was 5 months when this showed up. And before that, he was crawling. It was he was overly adept as a child, as an infant. And when he stopped crawling and his legs kept trembling, I finally said, there's something wrong. I don't know what it is. I took him to a doctor. And the doctor said, this was the doctor around the corner, so I didn't want to travel far. And he said, look, he just forgot how to move. What do I know? I says, okay. And I said to my mother asked me, and she says, there's no such thing. A baby doesn't forget how to move. So I dropped this doctor, and I went to another doctor that had been highly recommended. He saved his life because he stayed in and he scrubbed with him, with the surgeons. He measured the blood, the amount that was going, so they had the right amount going in. He looked after him after he was dismissed from the hospital. He was in the hospital in Long Island Jewish for 6 weeks. And I stayed with him. I couldn't sleep there, but I stayed from 9 to, I think it was 11. And then I'd come home and go to sleep.
Wow.
And I'd do the same thing the next day.
And he was only 5 months old?
But what happened is that we don't know if the tumor was caused by, the cancer was caused by something that Herb had gotten from radiation. And there was an organization, the atomic bomb group. Oh. He was a member of that too. And they were trying to find out. They did all kinds of investigations. They had doctors examine him and my son. But it seems like I have 3 children. And 3 children, even though Mark is a genius.
He was the first one?
He was the first one. The second one, Nina, has retinal problems. And the third one was hyper. So they were trying to figure out if any of this was related to the radiation. Because they also went to in the service. They also went to the different states that exploded the bombs and tested the radiation.
Oh.
So we don't know if that's part of it, but nobody else has. My mother did have that thing with her eyes, so she may have gotten it from that. But
no, they tested Herb for radiation in his body.
Well, I don't know. I don't think they tested her anymore. I think what they did it with Mark.
No, your husband.
And then I told him about Nina and Danny, and I don't think they tested them.
No, but your husband they tested.
No, definitely my husband.
And what came out of that test?
It was not a definite test. Eventually, he did get cancer out of his leg, but that was when it was much older. I think it was around 70-something.
Did the test showed that there was radiation in his body?
When he had the monitor, they didn't really at that time didn't know the amount that was dangerous, and it was radiation. They were working on all this radar and sonar and eventually the bomb.
Right. Wow.
So he may have picked it up.
That's very interesting. Wow. Now, is there anything else that we haven't discussed or that should be added to this? Any experiences he may have had that we didn't cover?
Well, I'd like to say that if it wasn't for his father, who was a college graduate, the first college graduate of Syracuse University in forestry, Herbert and his brother and sister would not have honored education like they did. And because of me going with Herb, and I did not have a college degree.
But you said you were a teacher.
That was after. When I got out of high school, I went to a girls' school in the Bronx, which was like a college. It was constant work. I mean, and I'd come home and I'd have to do homework until 4 or 5 o'clock. So when I got out, I said, I don't want to go to college. And I had met him. And he said, my father will not let me go with somebody who's not a college person. I said, what am I going to do? He says, go back to college. I go back. So I said, oh, all right. So I went back. I'm an artist. I went back and took all the art courses.
Where?
At the Nassau Community. And after 7 years at Nassau Community, still taking no definite courses, but art courses and things, and anything that interested me, I get a letter from the dean saying I'm on the dean's list, but he thinks a 2-year college should not have to extend 7 years. So I said to Herb, I have to go back and take all the credits I haven't taken. And that's when I finally went back. And I went back. I was thinking of art history, art therapy. I didn't like art history. Art therapy, I called up the different organizations, the hospitals, nursing homes, to find out how many art therapists they had. And if they had any, there was one. And it was related to somebody at the place. So I said, I don't want to go to art therapy.
Okay. So you were saying where you went to finish with college.
Well, I went to Nassau for 7 years and finished it and got my degree. I got on the summa cum laude list. Then I went to SUNY of Old Westbury, where I got the education training. And then at that time, they came in with 5 years after you get your bachelor's, you have to have a master's, but only if you're working. Oh. I couldn't find a job.
In art teaching?
That was very hard to find a job. Finally, I met somebody who was the principal of a yeshiva. And when she heard I was graduating from the school that winter, she said, would you like to come and work? I said, I really want to go to a public school. And I couldn't get a job. So I called her up and I said, are you still interested? And I was teaching first grade for 10 years.
In the yeshiva?
In the yeshiva and then in the private school in the Queens.
Okay.
It really was an experience. I had no idea how to teach.
But you took art education, no?
I took, that was part of it. That I took education for elementary, kindergarten through elementary. And I actually learned how to teach at teaching.
On the job. Mm-hmm.
And I loved it.
Good.
I loved teaching the kids and seeing the glow in their eyes when they caught something. I got very little pay, but the glory of seeing that work from their eyes paid me.
Nice.
So I stayed with them for 10 years, and then I left the city. I didn't want to travel anymore. And I came out here and put an application into all the schools I wanted to get into, all the districts. And all I got was, if you want to volunteer or if you want to be sub, we could take you. So the first year, I subbed for 7 different schools. When I got a phone call at 5 in the morning, I didn't even know what school, where it was. It was horrendous. So I stayed, I finally left most of the schools and stayed with Plainview, Jericho, and Jericho. And I stayed with them for another 7.5 years.
That was a permanent slots or subbing?
No.
Subbing.
No. Even with all that work, if you know somebody, fine. If your mother is in the school district, fine. But I didn't have anybody. So I just had to, I said to my husband, I said, look, if I don't get a job this year, I'm quitting. He says, you want to do that? I says, yeah. So he says, well, I'm not going to retire. I says, fine. So after 7.5 years, I finally said, I have it. If I can't get a full-time job, I don't want to get, people call me at 5 in the morning and I don't know where I'm going. I have these dreams of going to a school that I'm supposed to be going someplace else. I said, it's not for me. And that's what I did.
Okay. Anything else about Herb that we haven't discussed that you?
The only thing I thought would be interesting is an incident, quite an incident, that happened to Herb's father and brother in World War II. His brother is, I guess, 7 years older than him. He died. In fact, Maxine is the only one alive. She's going to be 89 the end of this month, 2 days. Philip, the brother, and the father, I told you the father had taken him under his wing to train him for the ship that he was working on. And they were delivering something to England, and the Germans torpedoed the ship. And the ship, when the captain of the ship realized they were hit, he put the ship in reverse to try to get away from anything. What happened is that the ship, that the part that his brother and father were on, reversed and hit on a shoal. The rest of it sunk. And half of it just split. The front went down.
It hit what?
A shoal in the ocean.
Oh.
You know, a bank.
The shore.
Not a shore. A shoal is like rocks or seashells and things.
Oh, I see.
And it held them up until the Canadians came and rescued them.
Wow.
So
they were lucky.
They came back. They had nothing left. Wow. Nothing. There was no clothing. When my father-in-law was quite heavy too. And when they lifted him with something, what do they call it, a derrick? To put it on another ship to lift him. They put it around his waist, and his hips were very small. His pants came down. He didn't even have pants. It was hysterical. Everybody was laughing on the ship. And the Canadians gave both of them a hand-knit dark blue sweater because it was very cold. And we still have the sweater.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Is anyone using it? Is anyone wearing the sweater?
Oh, no. It's. I don't even know who has it now. Probably my oldest son, Mark.
One last thing. If you could hold up the book and explain just for a minute what this is, why it was compiled, and what is in there. Your husband, father-in-law, and brother-in-law are all in this book of Jewish war veterans.
And they were all together alphabetically.
And why was this book compiled?
That's when the government decided to make, to do this, to get a listing of the soldiers, sailors, Navy, and airmen, see what their history is. And this was given to, my husband had to buy it, but it was compiled by them to induce people to see them. It's like graduating from college.
Just hold it up a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Beautiful.
Is that a camera too?
It's a video, so it's
Oh,
great. Very nice. Well, thank you so much, Adele,
you're welcome.
for sharing, and
I'm sorry.
I'm
I
sorry
finally
we
did
couldn't-
my job.
I'm sorry we couldn't meet your husband in person and thank him for
I'm
his
sorry.
service.
I'm sorry too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.